Something else they said is that while M2Z asserts that its proposal constitutes a, quote, innovative service while using new technologies under Section 7 of the Act, sorry to get so technical, we note that the transmission speeds proposed by M2Z are unremarkable compared to other broadband services currently being deployed.
Right. I think that's a very interesting statement because there's really two issues. The piece of the statute, the Telecommunications Act that they refer to says that new service or technologies, new services or new technologies. Now, what's a new service? There is no nationwide wireless broadband service that's free to the consumer, regardless of what the speed is. There is none of that. That doesn't exist. So it's a new service, right? You tell me differently if you know that you can go anywhere and get connected to the network for free. So, we think on the surface of it that the FCC sort of confused that issue, didn't get that issue right. The second issue is fundamentally just from an economic perspective, right? Confusing speed with value is very different. The free service is 6 times faster than dial-up, okay, 6 times faster than dial-up. But it's at $0. Today, to get 6 times faster than dial-up, where it's available, you basically have to pay somewhere between $40 and $90 a month, right? So from an American consumer perspective, if I can get something better than dial-up, 6 times better than dial-up, for no cost, isn't that a benefit to the American consumer? Now, they don't have to take the service, but I think having that option in the marketplace is a benefit. It's a new service, and it's also economically incredibly viable. So focusing on 384 kilobits as opposed to 1 megabits, but if you're paying $1,000 for 1 megabit, and you're paying nothing for 384 kilobits, I think most Americans would say, hey, I really like that. Now, remember that most Americans, right, buy television sets, multiple television sets, and only connect one of it to cable. Right? On cable, you can get 150 channels. On free over-the-air television, you might get 6, 12 channels, right? But you don't pay anything for the free service. So people say, okay, I'll put it up in the guest bedroom upstairs, and in the family room, I'll have the cable service, right? Because I want to be able to watch some shows in the other room and whatever. So people make these pricing trade-offs. The key is they have alternatives. They're not always stuck having to pay $80 a month just for cable service because that's the only option. They can always get a free service from the free over-the-air television and buy a set from the local store to sort of get on there. And that's the alternative that I think the FCC ought to be promoting. Now, look, if somebody else comes in and says, I want to be able to do it at twice the speed that M2Z is doing it, I think that's fantastic. That is the whole point of our broadband policy should be, right? To get somebody to encourage them and say, if M2Z figured out how to do this profitably, then another guy will come in, another gal will come in and say, I'll double the speed and I'll do it for free too. Wouldn't that be good for the consumer? So look, I think in my opinion, having spent time at the FCC, there is sort of a conflation of what I call sound bites. The people that opposed M2Z's application made all these same arguments, right? They said this speed is not fast enough, but they forgot conveniently to argue the issue that it's for free. Free, consumers make decisions, economic decisions, based on not just, everybody would love to have a Maserati, but it's going to cost you a lot of money to do that, and it eats up a lot of fuel. So you might decide you want to have a Ford Metro because it's a very efficient car and doesn't cost a lot to maintain. I think consumers should have a choice between the two. We're not here to argue for one or the other, but we want to be out there in the marketplace creating alternatives that create value for the consumer. Our focus is the consumer. Those are the people we have to value. If the consumers don't like ourselves, we'll find ourselves to be in an unprofitable business. We won't get the advertisers. We will, if that happens, maybe we'll have to return our license because we weren't able to sort of build out the network and so on and so forth. But at the end of the day, having more choices for consumers creates consumer benefits, consumer wealth. Having consumers have choices is great. Limiting this to some abstract notion of what one regulator or one set of regulators thinks is the right speed or the right price is, I think, the wrong way to approach